Okay, so let's start. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and I welcome you all to the August feature release launch. And if you've been attending our sessions, you would know that every month we have this webinar, and we showcase what new features we've published and what new value creation we're bringing in. So this month as well, we'll be talking about the new features that we've launched, and what mobile application updates we've worked on, and what web application features we've worked on. Okay, so just to explain the demographics of this web event is that please keep your mics on mute at all times, and if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the chat window, and we'll be taking them during the session, and even at the end of the session, we'll be having our question and answers. So we'll answer then accordingly. Okay. So let's move on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so if I talk about what happened in our last webinar, so as I explained, we talked about some exciting new features in the last webinar where the session was divided into two parts. We explained our web features, and then we also explained our mobile features. So we'll be following a similar pattern over here as well. And so yeah, so last time as well, we announced some exciting new features, and we also introduced updates in our mobile application. Okay, so moving forward. Yeah. If I talk about the, so in every session, am I audible? I just received a message that my voice is not clear.
Aman, you're audible.
Okay. Great. So yeah, we talk about our 30, 60, and 90-day plan. So we'll be talking about whatever we've launched on 5th August. This is the 5th September and 5th October plan. And we give you the 60 and 90-day plan just to, to have an idea of what features we're working on, and what our innovation pipeline looks like. So this is just to give you an overview of what we will be working on and what we have worked on and we'll be talking about in this session. Okay, if I move on to the agenda. Yeah, so the agenda is today we have something new for you guys. So apart from the normal web application feature demos, we'll be introducing you to Salesflo Pulse. So Salesflo Pulse is something new that we worked on, and we're really excited to show it to you guys how Pulse works, what Pulse is, what value Pulse will be bringing in, and then we'll be talking about our web features, and then secondly and thirdly we'll be talking about our mobile application features. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the first part of our session, that is introduction to Salesflo Pulse. So if you guys have been using our system for a very long time, you would know that we've got a set of reports in the system that are static reports are available. So whenever a new customer comes in, they have a certain format, they give us certain formats to get them developed, and reports की mapping होती है, उसमें आप हमें कहते हैं कि ये report हमें बना के दे दें एंड इस फॉर्मेट पे बना के दे दें, हमारा ये सर्टेन फॉर्मेट है. सो उस सारे काम को बचाने के लिए एंड टू गिव यू अ completely dynamic reporting tool, we've worked on Salesflo Pulse. So Salesflo Pulse is not only a dynamic report creation tool, it is also fast, simple and robust, and it is also scalable hai aapka, and you can drill down to any KPIs that you want. You guys will have a set of KPIs that you can drag and drop and create your own reports in any format that you guys like. So Rimsha in our team will be giving you the demo for it. How Salesflo Pulse will be bringing, how you can use Salesflo Pulse, how you can create your reports, how you can save your reports, all that functionality is available. So I will hand over the session to Rimsha, and yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Hello, hi everyone. I will be presenting today Pulse, which is our new feature, as someone mentioned. Let me share my screen. Okay. So we begin by, when you log in first, we begin by watching or viewing the dashboard. It's not integrated yet since it's a test instance, but you have an option to configure a report, which will be shown on your dashboard. You can save the results, highlight insights. You can view the dashboard as you would want, because obviously when we are working in an industry, everybody has their own set of KPIs. Everybody has their own set of rules which they want to follow in order to make sure that the dashboard actually gives the best visibility to the team as well. So you do have an option to do that. Since it's very dynamic, you can configure each and every report. You can even do it on your own Excel and then save the results over here, which will be shown in a graphical format over here. Next, in the Pulse, we have multiple options to build reports as well. As you know that every customer's pain point currently is that I would want certain kind of features or certain set of formats for my own reporting as well. So the first thing that we can do over here is view report builder. So when you click on that, it will give you a quick guide on how to actually start using the report builder. The first thing would be to tell you that you can create custom reports through certain dimensions and measures. The other thing is that you can build reports. We have certain dimensions and metrics such as secondary sales, primary sales, stock, productivity, product-wise productivity, and targets. The other thing is that obviously, when we're talking about matrix and dimensions, we need to ensure that the filters are being used timely as well and in real time. Then there is set report format. So for example, I have a report in my system or on Salesflo instance, which has channel option on the row side, but I would want to configure it and make it in a way which reflects the subtotal of, for example, a brand, but it's shown in the column side. So I can do each and everything, as someone mentioned as well, that is completely dynamic. It's completely modular as well, and we can start using the report as we like. After the quick guide, there's a new report format. When we talked about how there are certain sources where the data is coming from, the sources are mentioned over here as well. The first one is primary sales. There's like certain like a limited or brief definition as well for each data source. The first one is basically primary sales. Second is secondary sales, stock, productivity, product-wise productivity, and target. So for example, I want to make a new report for my team focusing on secondary sales. I'll click on that. Next. Okay. So over here, it will show me a format which is also very similar to Excel, because we obviously wanted to make sure that it's user-friendly as well. And our customers, when they start using it, know each and everything, and they don't get stuck in the user journey aspect of it. So dimensions actually include all the details which will be relevant to secondary sales. So I can see that there are dimensions about pricing, SKU, manufacturer code, business unit, category, brand, master SKU, and so on. There is a huge list of all the dimensions that you can select to create the report. So for example, for this demo specifically, I would want brand name and region. Yeah. And then there are measures as well. So for example, the sales could be in carton unit. FOC has also been incorporated in this measure. So I, for example, would want to go for sales in carton and then apply the filter. Okay. So when you, I hope my screen is visible. Okay. Let me just do the full screen right now. Yeah, so most of you, I believe, have already used pivot tables as well. So pivot tables actually has an option and allows you to drag and drop if I want to show my brand name in columns instead of rows, or if I want to see the total sum, but I also want to make sure that it could be in count or average, median, product as well. So I could do that as well. I click on sum and apply the filter. So I could see that it's taking a long space and it's giving me the sum option at the very end, and I just don't want to scroll. Over here, I have an option to click on filter as well and make sure that I could change it or reduce the size of it. For example, I just want the results for Butterpuff rather than having the whole screen filled with other brands which are not my brands or which are not associated with me specifically. So I could do that too. Other than that, I could also change the layout. For example, I want my brand name to be shown in rows instead of columns. So I could do that too. And again, I'll click on filters, select all, and my grand total will be shown over here. Okay. Now that you have your report with you, you obviously would want to save the layout for the next time. So when I click on save layout over here, I'll have to name my report, for example, brand sales. Now in the publish option, we have two options of user report as well as report library. So user report will actually basically confine the users to use, like, for example, I am a user, I only have certain reports option. It will restrict me to use the report if it's assigned to me only. And the user for report library, everybody who has a login or who has an option to use the report library, they will all be able to see this specific report. So I'm going to save it to report library, and it's a success. So now if I search brand sales, you can see that the report has been saved over here as well, and it would have been saved on the report library section as well. So for example, now I have to change some options with regards to, for example, I want to add certain columns or certain other filters as well. In the action section, you can see that there is an option for edit. You will click on that. I'm not sure why is this happening. Yeah, it's loading. Let's see. Yeah. So I will be able to add more dimensions as well if required. So for example, right now I would want channels. and I want everything to be the same. So now again, I can click on channel and I want to add it on my rows or columns. That's totally up to you. Or if you want to just make it a report filter, that's also possible. Click on apply and you could see that you can click on channel section, channel filter for the report and see if you want to just check the report or save it for later on as well, just for retail or just for wholesale or vice versa. And I will update the layout. So when I click on update the layout right now, it will override the option. It will override the whole report that was generated previously. So now the new report called brand sales has been saved in my report builder section as well as report library. We can go in the report library and check on if they're saved. Yep, it's here. So when it comes to report library, you can't edit or delete the report, or you can't do any sort of, you can't perform any sort of action on it. So it will, you can consider it as a bookshelf. When you have a certain book with you, it's in a full form or in a final form. Obviously, you're just gonna place it on the bookshelf. You can't make any edits later on. So it will be sort of like that. You can also create charts. So for example, for this specific report, I want to see it in columns or bar. Everything will be over here. With regards to filters, you could also perform that. If you want to see filters for butterpuff, cake, and choco lava, you could also apply the filter and just check the report for the visibility of these 3 brands only. And okay. So when we talk about, obviously, you have saved the whole report on your Pulse section or Pulse instance, but you want to make sure that you export the whole report because you have done a brilliant job. You want to show it off. You want to send it to your team as well on email or through certain other channels, whichever you use. You want to make sure that you download it first. Keep the same format. So I could export it to the Excel format and share it with my team. I'm just showing here that you could download it in Excel, but you could also use other options as well for export. There's HTML, there's CSV, image, and PDF as well. Now going back to report builder. So for example, you have created a report, but it's of no use. Nobody is using it, and it's consuming a lot of your what do you call it? Like a lot of your area, or it's of no use. Nobody is using it, and you just want to delete it. So there is an option for delete as well. You could just delete the whole report, and it will be gone. Now, when you talk about managed roles, there are certain managed roles which you can assign to your users as well. So, for example, when we talk about user groups, it's a process of one user can be added into multiple groups as well. So, for example, I want to make sure that one of the users can't see the report, can only view the report but can't edit it. We have an option of that too, where you give permission for read only to certain users. You can give certain options to only view and edit and not delete. So there's a mixture of options which you could use for the users to use the whole Pulse section. Now, if we talk about custom reports, so custom reports will actually be generated from your Salesflo instance. So for example, if I have custom report specifically for my company only, if I am, for example, XYZ company associated with Salesflo, I have certain calculations being performed in that report, and I can't replicate it all the time. So all the custom reports will be integrated into Pulse, where you could view it such as I have opened distributor productivity. By default, the date will be from 1st of this current month till today. It's still loading, yeah. So you could see all the rows and columns. So till 47, it's a very long report till today. So that's why it's taking 47 pages. But for instance, I just want to download the raw data in XLS. I could do that too. I could download it on my end and raw data will be downloaded. Yep. Another thing is that if I want to do analysis on the specific report, I could also click on Go Analysis and use the same filters as they previously were. So for example, for region specifically, I want to focus on region A for this report. I could do that. And when I click on this, okay. Export and charts option is also available for the specific report. So you can obviously move on and click on the column or bar, whichever you would find feasible for this report, whichever is more pleasing or whichever is more, you could say, attractive for the report section. And that's how the Pulse would go on. Yeah, so over to you, Saman.
Thank you, Rimsha. So guys, I hope that you really liked our Pulse tool. So we've done a lot of hard work, and there are customers who are successfully using Pulse right now. And if you want to subscribe for Pulse, you can let your customer success manager know, and then they'll guide you further on what the process is. Okay, so I'll move on to the next part of our, so the next thing on our agenda is that we'll be now talking about the web application feature. Yeah. So we worked on asset approval hierarchy. So customers who have been using our asset module would know that we had a very static, approval hierarchy before, and it wasn't as dynamic. Like you weren't able to set any levels. Now you can set levels for different kinds of movements, and you're also able to say which specific user is allowed for approval at which level, at which designation, and then similarly that user will be allowed to approve the asset movement. Okay, so Zoha will be briefing you about actually giving you a context of what the asset module is, and she'll also be walking you through how the asset approval hierarchy matrix will be working. Okay, so Zoha, over to you.
Thank you, Saman. All right, I will be sharing my screen now. Right, so I hope this is visible to everybody. Okay, so as someone mentioned that we recently worked on the asset module, and for those of you who know what asset module is, it's a module that helps you manage your assets at site. So what you can do, so a little background about the module for those of you who aren't using the module. So assets are basically your asset, a company's asset that are deployed at various locations. Let's say the store, if it's holding at a distributions end, or at a warehouse. So there are different locations that can be created within Salesflo as to where you can store your assets, and you can create movements using those locations, right? So first, we talk about the asset. You can describe your asset completely using the different classifications that are present in Salesflo. There are different attributes where you can define and be very specific about the asset. So you can define the asset type, the make, model, the condition. These are the two tabs where you define the warehouses from where the assets come from. That is the source, the manufacturer, the name of the manufacturer, manufacturer that are holding the particular assets, and then you create the movements for the assets, right? So let's say you have an asset that is to be deployed at a particular store. So what the asset movement module would do is that it'll help you move the asset in the system. So virtually, so physically it's happening, right? You pick up the asset from the site of the manufacturer, wherever they keep it, let's say a warehouse, and then you drop it at a store. But in the system, there has to be some evidence that this movement happened, right? So what the asset module does is that it helps you keep track and maintain the log of that movement. So what asset movement module does is that it creates movements and it keeps a tab of what particular asset is placed at what particular location, right? So another thing that comes into one's head when creating such movements would be that, you know, assets are financial liabilities, right? So when you're moving them from one place to another place, you need to keep track of them as to where they're going. That is being handled by this particular tab, asset movement. But there are also certain approvals that are required for those asset movements, right? So if I'm saying I need a asset at this particular store, some company might say that, listen, we have a set of approvers that are supposed to approve this particular request of yours, and then we'll have that asset deployed at a particular store or a distribution, wherever you please. So that is where the asset movement approval tab comes into play, where you're given the option to approve or reject the movement requests, right? So you're raising the request, it needs to be approved in order for the transaction to happen, right? Without approvals, it won't be a valid transaction. Then there's this particular tab for the receiving of a particular type of movement, right? So there's this tab called asset receiving, manufacturer to distributor. There's only one movement that, according to the system, that requires a receiving from the distributor that yes, we have received the asset. So in all of the other movements that I'll show you, the distributor does not need to acknowledge that they have received the asset for it to be shown in the log. But for this particular movement, which is manufacturer to distributor, a distributor does need to acknowledge that they have received the asset. This again is a very crucial part when it comes to keeping track and keeping track and tab with regards to where is an asset present at a particular time, right? Acha, this was the asset movement that we created, and most of us or most of the clients are also using it. What change happened, or what we brought on, what was the feature that we introduced was, okay, whoever had the access to create assets had the access to raise a movement, right? They had the access to log into the system, open the asset movement tab and create movements. They can move the assets from one place to another, and the system will accept their request as a transaction, right? So what we did what we brought on as a change was that only people who would, so a certain set of clients would say, listen, we don't want everybody who has access to this module moving our assets here and there, right? We want to give restricted access to people to manage this. So this was one of the requests that came up, and this is how we managed it. So we went into asset settings, and as you guys know, that asset settings is a tab which is only given to privileged users. That is specific individuals can access settings and assign settings to and assign approvals or requisition approvals to certain entities. So initially, there was no such thing as asset requisition setting. Anybody who had access to the asset module could raise the movement request that I would want a distributor to store movement to happen, right? And then this came into play. So what we created was, we created this tab which says asset type wise requisition rights. That is, if the user has the requisition right for raising this particular type's movement, then only they'll be able to raise this movement request. Otherwise, they won't be able to, right? So right now, I am the user Salesflo admin, as you can see. I gave myself all the rights because Salesflo admin has all the rights. It is the most privileged designation that exists in the system. So I gave myself the rights to raise all the requisition movements. So if I show you, Salesflo admin will be selected in all of the tabs, right? So if I say I don't want, so let's just remove this permission access from myself. Okay, and I'll save it. So now I don't have the access to raise the movement for warehouse to warehouse. So when I go back to the asset movements grid, I go to asset movement, I create a movement. I'll be shown all the other movements in the dropdown except for warehouse to warehouse, right? Because I don't have the access to raise this particular movement. Right now, in terms of how the movement itself works, let's say I do have the right to raise warehouse to distributor. I'll select a warehouse that I've already created in the system. I'll select a distributor. I'll select a reason for that particular movement. I'll put in a cost, which is also a mandatory field. I'll say let's 333 is my cost for this asset, and I will move this asset into the system. So what I've essentially done now is that I'm saying I want to move this particular asset, which is whatever the barcode of this asset is, from a warehouse location to a distributor location. I specified the warehouse location, I specified the distributor location, and then my movement has been raised, right? So I go back to the grid and I see, I move on to the approval mechanism of that, and I see that I have this row coming in which is asking for my approval. Right now, I'll get, before like approving or rejecting this request, I'll let you know what the approval hierarchy does, what is the mechanism. So what essentially is like right now I've walked you through the current process of raising a movement request. Right now there comes an important part into the picture, which is approving that particular requisition. Right, so initially what it used to happen was all the users that had access to the approving module were able to approve all the requests that were falling into their grid. Right now this is a change that we enabled, and if I can show you, I'll show you what the previous screen looked like. This was the previous outlook of the approving screen. What the previous screen does was it used to give you rights for approving these particular requests. Let's say warehouse to warehouse, there is a movement warehouse to warehouse, and you will be able to approve only this, approve and view only this particular movement. All other movements will be invisible for you. You won't be able to see it, right? So this particular tab, what it did was, okay, it'll be disabled. Asset movement approval is no step. You raise a request and then the asset is moved. There is no step as asset movement approval, right? The third step that we have introduced this time is asset movement type wise approval, right? So you'd say that I have 5 different types of movements, including warehouse to warehouse, warehouse to distributor, distributor to warehouse. Now I want it to be managed in such a way that for every type I have a different hierarchy that approves my asset, or there are different approval levels that approve my asset and the movement type, right? So as you can see, if I can click on the eye, which gives me the visibility or the view for what particular designation is assigned the approval level for this particular movement, I can see that my designation, which is Salesflo admin, is assigned the rights to approve this particular movement at level 1, right? So all the requests that I raise will be, or somebody else raises, will be visible to me if I am at level 1, right? And I'll be able to approve it or reject it depending on the situation, right? So if I want to reject it, I'll be able to. If I'm supposed to approve it, I'll be able to. So this is how you edit it. This is how you view it, like I showed. This is how you edit it. If you want to increase the levels, increase approval levels, you can put in level 1 pay, you have Salesflo admin, level 2, you can have different other designations and other users that will be handling this situation. For another warehouse to distributor, which is another movement type, you can set another approval level. So this is how this is managed. You have to save it for it to reflect it or reflect on the asset screen. So this is how the settings work, right? So once, like now I showed you that I was the first level of approver for all of these designations. I am the first approver for all of these particular movements. So on this screen, when I go on to approving the asset request, I see that it is pending at level 1. And the reason why I can see this approve button and nobody else who is not on this designation is because I was specified this particular designation. Once I say, okay, let's approve this request and I proceed with this action, this particular request will be visible in the grid that I just created. So asset movement approval, and it'll show approved as I just approved this request. So this is the flow for all the movements that are that are currently present in the system and that are possible in the system with regards to the flow, that there are 3 entities in the system: warehouse to distributor, distributor to store, store to distributor, distributor to warehouse. So all possible permutations have been covered in the module. One particular permutation that I initially talked about, which was manufacturer to distributor. So after my approval, that particular movement will show into the manufacturer to distributor tab as pending. And once I receive it, it will then show into the asset movement type. So this is only for one particular movement. The rest follow the same flow. They're raised and then they're approved. For this particular movement, they're raised, approved, and then received for the movement to happen and for the transactions to be logged. So this essentially is how the asset module works. For those of you who are new to the feature or don't have an overview of how the feature works, I think this suffices for a demo for the entire feature. For those of you who already use the feature, I feel this will be a great value addition with regards to how we have now incorporated the requisition and the approval hierarchy. So this is it for the demo, and I'll hand it over to Saman now.
Thank you, Zoha. Okay, guys, so Zoha gave a very detailed demo of how our asset approval matrix will be working. So if you guys have any chillers, trade assets, freezers, fridges that you want to be tracked in store, we have a complete asset tracking module. An order booker goes to the store, he can scan the assets, and then he can come back, sync up the data, and all the data will be visible on the web application as well. And then you're able to maintain traceability of where your trade assets are lying. Exactly, whether they're at the warehouse or the distribution or at a particular store. Okay, so moving on to the last part of our agenda, that is the mobile application feature demo. So we will be releasing an application where we've given some minor updates, and we'll be giving you a demo of what visibility we've given in the mobile application. It's basically a better order booking summary, and then one issue that we had been, we've been constantly reported is that, order bookers forget their passwords and type करते उनको याद नहीं रहता कि वो क्या type करें. So now we've also given them visibility of while they're typing in the password, they can also view it. And we've also given the order summary in detail now. That is, we've also added units and cartons. Both metrics will be available. So Salman will be giving you a demo of where exactly in the application you can go and see these updates. And I'll hand over the session to Salman.
Thank you, Saman. So I hope you all can see my screen. So I'll be presenting some of the features that we are planning to launch in our upcoming release. So the first feature I'll be talking about is the password visibility in our login screen. So in our login screen, you can see that there's an eye icon through which the users can exactly see what password they have typed. So let's suppose I type a password, and as soon as I tap on the eye icon, I'll be able to see the password which I have exactly typed. So why we have given this option? It is because that the order bookers used to type incorrect passwords, and they usually type password incorrect multiple times. So it gets really frustrating from them as well. And it basically, in order to reduce their number of steps, we have given this option to them. So for example, if I type a password, I'll be able to see exactly what password I have typed. So in order to eliminate any errors or mistakes that I do in that password. So that was about our first feature. So let me just log in to further communicate the next features we have planned. Yeah, so let me just place an order against a single store, and then I'll show you the order summary button that we are planning to launch. So let me just enter one store and do check-in. Yeah, so on the after tapping the proceed button, you can see that there's a visibility of the order summary button on the bottom left of the screen. So that is basically a more clearly visible button. So previously order bookers didn't have the visibility as in how they can generate a detailed order summary. So it was quite hidden, and there was a lot of difficulties for order booker to see exactly what they have booked, including discounts and including taxes as well. But now on the bottom left, you can see there's an option to generate order summary, which is very clear and precise for the order bookers. So after tapping the view order summary button, order bookers will be able to see the complete details of the orders of which they have booked, and they will have the visibility of the discount as well, and the total units they have booked, including taxes as well. So that's a major change that we will be releasing in our upcoming application. Now moving on to our last update of the application, which is the dynamic visibility of units and carton in order summary. So let me just first share the web panel settings of that feature. So in our web panel, there's an option in the system settings, there's an option to see SQ attribute setting. So within our SQ attribute setting, there's an option to either see order summary in cartons or in units. So the users can select accordingly to their business cases. Some users really want to see the number of cartons they have booked, and some users want to see the number of units they have booked. So based on this setting, once you save that, now let me just come on the application part again. Yeah, so on the application, based on your setting, on the top left, you can see that there's a visibility of total units. So as my system settings was on total units, I'll be able to see what I have booked in terms of units. But if I set the settings on cartons, I'll be able to see the number of cartons that I have booked. So that is about the mobile application updates. If you have any questions, you may drop on the chat box, or you may ask after the end of presentation. So over to you, Saman.
Thank you, Suman. Okay, let me share my screen again. Yeah. So guys, that was the main, basically the main features and the main tools that we wanted to showcase in this webinar. I'll be now giving you now showcasing you what our upcoming innovation pipeline looks like, our 30, 60, and 90-day plan. but the 60 and 90-day plan is subject to change. But the 5th September release, we will be talking about it in detail in the next webinar, and we will be we'll be happy to take in any suggestions, any if you have any suggestions for improvements, any manual work that you guys do daily, and you're facing any kind of problems, we're here to help you out, and we're here to work on those features. So do give your suggestions as well. Okay, so now we'll be taking in the questions. If you have any questions regarding the features, the tool, Salesflo Pulse that we've talked about, so we are happy to take any questions. We did get a few questions in the chat window during the session, so I'll be just simply walking you through them. Okay, so Irfan had asked on which dimensions we fetch data by using Salesflo Pulse. Can we extract promotion data and SKU level data? Okay, so basically the underlying architecture for Pulse reporting is the same as the static reports that we get on Salesflo. But since Pulse is built on a new technology, we have made data cubes, right? So data cubes fetch the data faster, and that's why you're able to generate reports at runtime and quickly. So basically any report that you see on Salesflo static reports will give you the same result as the Pulse reports that you generate. Okay, and for now we've worked on and in detail on all kinds of sales reports. So primary and secondary reports are there. Sales data, whether you want to view it on brand, on SKU, on category, etc. But promotional data, like specific promotions, how trade promotions are performing at a particular channel, etc. These level of reports we are working on. So these dimensions are currently in development. So maybe in any upcoming release, we'll be talking about it in further detail. Okay. Then there was a question regarding the bulk upload feature for the approver. So yes, there is the bulk feature for approval of assets. So you can use it. Then Fizan had suggested that we should also give visibility of passwords in our web portal. So yeah, this is a great suggestion because mobile users हो या web users हो आपको password typing में और उसमें difficulty तो आती है. So that's a good suggestion. We'll look into it. Okay, so we are in a phase of tagging, getting lots of complaints regarding getting location at the time of GPS, which is the best possible solution. Acha, so if ये order booker specific issue है, if a specific order booker is getting this issue, or a lot of order bookers are getting this issue, then we can check it personally. If you can get in touch with your customer success manager as well and email about this, we'll check this at priority. Otherwise, there are a couple of settings that we ensure before the tagging activity is started. तो अगर वो सारी settings आपकी पूरी होंगी तो फिर GPS location में we haven't made any update and it's working perfectly fine. वैसे so आप इसके बारे में ना एक email कर दीजिएगा हमें and we'll look into it. Is that possible to check both together while ordering? Okay, so units and cartons पे अगर आप ordering चाह रहे हैं, so there is a setting for that as well. That is configurable through web. We can book order in both cartons, units, dozen, virtual pack, any way you want. That is configurable through the system. And if you can contact your CSM about it or our support team about it, and they'll guide you further on how to get this setting done. Achha. Give restriction of order under decided. Okay, so Fizan, this is a suggestion that we have been getting, but there are certain limitations to it. So basically, if we restrict the order booking within a certain GPS parameter. उसमें ये होता है कि if you know if the weather conditions are bad and let's say if an order booker is standing within 200-meter radius and you don't want that the order should be punched in without the 200-meter radius. So and if the weather condition is bad, then that might affect the booking. And we have worked on a similar I think restriction. Salman, if you can add to it the GPS restriction. Is this in our pipeline currently, or we will have to decide on this?
So this is in our pipeline. So we will be creating a dynamic setting where user can set the radius, and within that radius you can restrict the ordering. So yeah, that is in our pipeline.
Okay. Thank you. Acha, I want to know about the bulk upload of channel assortment. Okay, so bulk upload of channel assortment is present, and we can guide you further on how that works as well. आप या तो हमारी support team से कर लो या customer success person से relevant contact कर लो. They'll guide you further. If there are any if there are any issues that you're facing regarding it, we're happy to help you with that as well. Acha, any update on dynamic pricing? Any? Okay, so dynamic pricing is something that is currently under testing. So maybe in the next release or the next release after, we'll be announcing it. So yeah, we'll let you know about it, because it's a complicated and a very big feature that we're working on. So we will be launching it properly and giving you a demo about how you can set your pricing inventory wise. We will be talking about it in our upcoming webinars. Okay, so any further suggestions, questions? I'll iterate again that please do give us feedback. We have been receiving feedback, and I hope that this session is helpful for you guys, and you guys are able to learn as well as get to know about our new features, and you're also able to see that we're bringing in some kind of value for you guys. Okay, so I think there are no further questions. So we'll proceed on to ending this session, and we will be circulating a survey after this. So please do take out some time and give us your feedback. Okay. So see you in our next release webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.